Welcome back to the Bible Breakdown channel. Today's video will be the story of the fall of Jericho. Have you ever faced a challenge so big, so impossible, that you just wanted to give up? A wall so high you couldn't see the top? Well, today we're diving into one of history's most incredible stories about overcoming the impossible. It's a tale of faith, obedience, and a city whose walls came tumbling down in the most unexpected way. This is the story of the fall of Jericho. Our story begins with the Israelites, God's chosen people, who had just spent 40 long years wandering in the desert. 40 years, can you imagine? Their leader Moses had passed away, and a new leader, Joshua, had stepped up. God had promised them a land of their own, a land flowing with milk and honey. But there was one huge obstacle standing in their way: the mighty, fortified city of Jericho. Jericho wasn't just any city. It was one of the oldest and most powerful cities in the ancient world. Its walls were legendary thick, high, and seemingly impenetrable. From a military perspective, attacking Jericho was a suicide mission. The Israelites were mostly nomads and former slaves, not a trained army. They were outmatched and outgunned. So, what was Joshua to do? This is where things get interesting. God gives Joshua a battle plan, but it's unlike any battle plan you've ever heard. There are no siege towers, no battering rams, no secret tunnels. God's instructions were strange. He told Joshua to have his army, including 7 priests carrying trumpets made from ram's horns, march around the city of Jericho once a day for 6 days. Just walk around it, in complete silence. The only sound was to be the shuffling of feet and the blast of the 7 trumpets. Think about that for a second. Imagine you're a soldier in Joshua's army. You've been waiting your whole life to enter the promised land, and your commander tells you the strategy is to just walk around the enemy's city. No fighting, no shouting, just walking. You'd probably think he'd lost his mind, right? And what about the people inside Jericho? They must have been watching from the top of their walls, totally confused. Day 1, the Israelites march. Day 2, they march again. Day 3, 4, 5, 6, the same silent procession. The people of Jericho were probably laughing at them, mocking this bizarre daily parade. It must have looked ridiculous. This is a powerful lesson in itself. Sometimes, the path to our breakthrough looks foolish to the rest of the world. It requires us to trust in a plan that doesn't make logical sense. For the Israelites, every step they took around that city was an act of faith. It was a declaration that they trusted God's promise more than what their eyes could see. They were obediently following a command that defied all human wisdom. Then came the 7th day. God's instructions for this day were different. On the 7th day, they weren't to march around the city just once. They were to march around it 7 times. 7 priests, 7 trumpets, 7 laps on the 7th day. The number 7 in the Bible often symbolizes divine completion and perfection. Something big was about to happen. So, the Israelites got up early and began their march. Once around the city, then a 2nd time, a 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th time. The tension must have been immense. The soldiers, the priests, the entire nation of Israel, all marching in silent anticipation. The people of Jericho, watching from their walls, were probably getting a little nervous by now. This wasn't just a casual stroll anymore. Something was different. After the 7th lap, God gave the final command. Joshua turned to the people and said, "Shout, for the Lord has given you the city." At that moment, the 7 priests blew a long, powerful blast on their trumpets. And then, the entire nation of Israel, hundreds of thousands of people, let out a single, massive, earth-shattering shout. And what happened next is the part of the story that is echoed through millennia. The Bible says that at the sound of the shout, the walls of Jericho fell. They didn't just crumble in one spot, they collapsed. The massive, impenetrable fortifications that had stood for centuries just fell down flat. The very thing that made Jericho seem invincible was gone in an instant. The path into the city was now wide open. The Israelites charged straight in and captured the city, just as God had promised. But there's a fascinating side story here, a story of hope and redemption that happens within the larger narrative. Before the siege, Joshua had sent 2 spies into Jericho to scout the land. They found refuge in the house of a woman named Rahab. She wasn't a noble or a queen. The Bible tells us she was a prostitute. But she had heard about the God of Israel and the miracles he had performed. She had faith. She hid the spies and helped them escape, making them promise to spare her and her family when the city was attacked. Her signal, a scarlet cord hanging from her window. When the walls fell and the Israelites stormed the city, they saw that scarlet cord amidst the chaos and destruction. That one house, the house of a woman who chose to believe, was saved. Rahab and her entire family were brought to safety. Her story is so significant that she's even mentioned in the New Testament in the lineage of Jesus. It shows that no matter who you are or what your past is, faith can change your destiny. So, what can we take away from the fall of Jericho? First, it's a story about the power of faith and obedience. The Israelites' victory didn't come from their own strength, but from their willingness to trust and obey a plan that seemed absurd. It reminds us that sometimes our greatest victories are won not by fighting harder in our own strength, but by surrendering to a higher plan. Second, it teaches us about perseverance. 6 days of marching in silence, with no visible results. It would have been so easy to give up on day 3 or day 5, but they kept going. They stayed the course. True breakthroughs often require consistent, patient effort, even when we can't see the progress. And finally, the story of Rahab shows us that God's grace is for everyone. It doesn't matter where you come from or what you've done. A single act of faith can set you on a path to redemption and purpose. The wars we face in our own lives, whether they're financial struggles, relationship problems, health issues, or personal fears, can seem just as intimidating as the walls of Jericho. They can look solid, permanent, and impossible to overcome. But this story encourages us to look beyond the walls. It challenges us to ask, what is our battle plan? Are we relying only on our own understanding, or are we willing to listen for a different kind of guidance? Maybe our marching is consistently showing up every day. Maybe our silence is quieting the doubts in our own head. And maybe our shout is that final act of faith, that bold step we take, trusting that the walls will indeed come down. The fall of Jericho is more than just an ancient battle. It's a timeless blueprint for breakthrough. It's a powerful reminder that, with faith, obedience, and perseverance, no wall is too high, and no obstacle is too great. Thank you so much for joining me on this journey back in time. If this story inspired you, please hit that like button and subscribe for more content that explores the powerful lessons hidden in these ancient tales. I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. What wars are you facing, and how does this story encourage you? Until next time, stay curious and keep believing.